My second ever podcast ever.
Dude, so Will's one of my all-time good friends
Mm,
that I've known for so I knew him back in grade school, but I didn't really know him because I had just moved into a new school and I was still growing socially where he was
mm,
already kind of established into that circle. And so he was like, one of the cool kids, quote unquote. And then we reconnected when he started killing it in real estate. Obviously, you heard his story.
yeah.
And one of my best friend at the time, who I was living with when I started
Mm,
um, in Divini, we connected for lunch, and then we just started talking about just like all kinds of things. And Will's, as you know, someone that is just like loves to talk about everything. And then we started getting these debates about certain concepts, and the conversation was just really intriguing. So we quickly made friends in a short duration, which usually seems like that's how it goes when you spark that friendship, and it's like, okay, yeah, we were meant
mm,
to be friends.
yeah. Will is an amazing, great person. I mean, thanks to Will, the reason you're here is because of Will as well, right? The reason it's such a great story. Everyone loved it. The people around me, the interview that we had with William, and it was amazing. And now it's your time. I have so many questions for you. I have done a lot of research on you with Divini. I'm really excited. Okay, obviously I know about your thing, but before we start, can you like introduce yourself real quick to the audience and to the people who are watching? Just a little introduction.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mason Domecq. I founded a beverage startup out of Scottsdale, Arizona, in the United States. And the concept of the beverage was I wanted to craft a fermented holistic tea that was in a mainstream market and to basically normalize health. I see a lot of people that are on the health track, and you either identify with like what health is, and then that like kind of encapsulates your entire world, and then you start going to gym, or you start doing yoga, or you start eating a ton of vegetables, and then like that kind of builds your identity.
Mm,
And then for the majority of the world, they might not, identify with something that is healthy, but they would identify with a brand that, looks cool or the idea portrayed through social media through the brand image. And then the health aspect would be almost a secondary catalyst to that. So then you start drinking it, you're like, oh, this is so cool. And then you might not even know, what the ingredients are, what the backbone of the beverage is. But you just like it because it looks cool and the identity behind it. And then you start drinking, you're like, oh wow, there's only four ingredients, just tea, honey, fruits, and herbs. Like this is a health beverage, but you wouldn't know that front facing. So that was an interesting spin that I wanted to bring into, to take an audience and kind of have that as a soft intro to the health and to get people off of sodas, to get people off of energy drinks and back into what, people consumed from a very primitive
mm,
state of like, if you're needing energy, like have some berries, have some honey, and there's no crash, there's no extra, facet, like that's nature's energy.
mm.
So that's the concept behind building Divini, and that first got me kind of encapsulated in that sector.
Okay, that's wow, that's profound. I have a lot of questions about that, but before we dive into those questions, like let's talk about your childhood. I just love talking about childhood. Oh, by the way, how old are you right now?
I'm 24 right now.
Oh, okay. I'm 20 years old. Yeah, that's
Let's
nice.
go. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, so what was your childhood like? I just like talking about childhood. Like people who are like doing great stuff, like, at such a young age like yours, building brands, companies, businesses, running entrepreneurs, especially. It's like, what was your childhood like? I know you played golf. I'll ask you some more questions about that later. But for now,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Let's,
it's so interesting. To your point, I love whenever I meet people, I always get into, why they do things and how they operate.
yeah,
Either
same.
comes from, I mean, most of it does come from childhood upbringings, good and bad. And then you either get those skills through parents, or you find those skills through your community, your mentors, teachers. But the basis is, I mean, you have to find someone that's living the life that you want to live, and you have to encapsulate their ideas and their behaviors and mannerisms in your daily life. And I was blessed to have that early on in childhood. So I was born in Wyoming. It's a very nature focused state. Tons of big mountains. It's very cold during winter time. It's very similar to like Canada's weather, or like Banff or anywhere that's like yeah, very mountainy. You know, it'd snow a ton during winter. Summertime, it never got above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Um, and my town that I grew up in was around 4,000 people, within, you know, it's basically more animals than people in our entire community. And my father and my mother, at the age of around 25, they started a clothing business in California,
Mm.
and it was in the Western clothing industry. So it's funny how you kind of adopt naturally, subconsciously, you
DNA.
adopt the same philosophies that you learned, but just in, you know, your own ways. And their idea was, they started a brand called Cowboy Up. It was a clothing business, and Cowboy Up basically meant, you know, when life hits you, like you just got to cowboy up, like you got to hop on your horse and
Okay,
you just
yeah.
got to get to work. You know, you got to be the cowboy. And then they launched Cowgirl Up, which is a clothing brand, which kind of
Mm.
was meant to, yeah, inspire men and women to just be more than they were. And they launched that in California. They had my brother in a small town called Modesto. Um, and I was born 4 years later, so he was born in California, then we moved to Wyoming. They opened up a shop there, and then they were basically operating the business side. They had basically 5,000, just under 10,000 square foot facilities. They had a couple screen printing machines. I think at one time we had 20 employees working at the shop. It was just making clothing, coming up with creative designs, putting on a catalog, and going to trade shows, oftentimes rodeos, to promote, set up a booth, sell clothes, you know, go to all the places where their demographic
Mm.
would want to buy their apparel. So I would often go to, you know, a ton of trade shows. I was working as a young kid, like in the clothing manufacturing facility, like just looking at inventory and
How old were you
packing
at that time?
it. I was, man, I was like 7 years old, probably.
Seven. Okay, that
Yeah.
explains it. That explains it. Okay.
So I was
Yeah.
very used to that, like, you know, and it was I mean, my father and mother ran the whole company. My dad was on more of that like sales side, and my mother, she was a accountant, so she handled all the books of the company. So from a young age, yeah, I understood the dynamic of, you know, what a product looked like, what it took to make the product, and then how the process went about of finding people that want to buy your product, and then having the backbone of the good product, you know, very a passive sales method, like creating a product that you have confidence in and you're passionate about, um, and letting the people, you know, decide whether they wanted to be a part of your mission or not, and showing up, and saying, hey, here's what we represent and here's what we're
Mm.
selling, and you know, do you want to be a part of what we're building? And having that as a backbone was a really cool, just to have early in life. Yeah, absolutely. So I got a very good idea of how that operated. When I was 7, we moved from Wyoming to Anthem, Arizona. My parents were tired of the snow, and that was right during 2008, the financial crisis. So we actually foreclosed our house, and had to file bankruptcy in 2008. So my
Oh,
parents basically had to restart from scratch. So we moved to Anthem, which is about 45 minutes north of where I live right now. And they got basically similar, you know, 10,000 square foot building in Anthem, and had to do some restructuring and get another business partner out here in Arizona. But Arizona's, you know, very similar cowboy theme, you know, Wild West. So naturally it kind of worked well, to build that up. And my parents were still passionate about the idea, and they knew they could make it work in a similar market that was possibly more, just more people, bigger demographic, more shows. And so they restarted that. built that company up in the span of the next, let's say, yeah, around 8 years. So from 2008 to 2016, sold it off to a private investor that was working at Boot Barn and in that sector. Sold it for just under $1 million. And we ended up moving to Scottsdale and purchased our first house in Scottsdale area. And then my parents have basically just been flipping houses for income since then.
Amazing. Would you say you were like great at academics in childhood, or do you like studying in general?
Absolutely. I have it's so funny, like when you're talking to Will, like Will hated school.
Yeah,
And
I
so
know.
many of my
Yeah,
friends that started companies hate school.
it's cool.
I was totally the opposite. I absolutely loved school. And
Mm.
throughout high school and college, I had a 4.0 GPA. I never got a B in any of my classes after, since like third grade or fourth grade. I had a 4.63 weighted GPA when I graduated high school. I think I graduated with basically a full year of college done, and then when I went into college, I graduated in 3 years. Um, and my discipline was in accounting, so I went that business route. And yeah, I loved it. I love that. Like for a lot of people, I from the conversations, like they just think school is stupid, and they don't really see the point in it. And the point I always saw in school was like you're able to get a task, and your effort is directly correlated to whether you succeed in that class. And sure, you can naturally pick up intellectually on understanding concepts, and that helps. But I mean, for example, like I remember I had an English class in high school, and the English class every Thursday we would do basically a test on like 10 vocabulary words, and it was like memorization of the definition, pronunciation, and like matching it to like the correct sentence. And before school, like I would show up 30 minutes early in the parking lot, and I would sit in my car and I would have flashcards, and I would just like memorize and go through every single definition. And that was my first class in school. So it was almost like how quickly can I digest information? I saw it as a game, and like how quickly can I have my mind understand a concept, memorize it, and learn from it, and then like I want to get 100% on the test. So I saw school as almost like, yeah, how can I train my mind quickly to understand information, learn, digest that, and then, like get 100% on the test. So I saw that as kind of like the fun learning experience of what school represented.
That's amazing. Were you like an extrovert? Like, did you have a lot of friends, or you were like you always had, small group of friends?
I would say when I grew up, when we moved to Anthem, and I grew up in that it was a very tight-knit community. I believe Anthem has a population of maybe 10, 20,000 people. Don't quote me on that. But
Yeah.
and so I grew up in that. So if through middle school and high school, it was a very tight-knit community. So I was doing a lot. I was playing golf at the time, so we had like our golf friends, and then there's just like a lot of community stuff that I always just attended. So I was very social within that community, but also on the same token, like I would always put um, tasks in front of socializing. So like I wouldn't do anything unless like I completed what I wanted to do, whether that be studying for school or going to the golf course and practicing. Like there's a set of things I had to accomplish in order for me to go out, and I just didn't, I could have socialized way, way more and gone to a ton, parties or social gatherings, but I was very strict on completing those assignments before doing anything. And then when I moved to Scottsdale after my parents sold that company in 2016, it was like entering like a new biome. Like I was always a small town boy, and
Mm.
then basically going to like a city where there's a large wealth gap, like seeing kids and families that had like these crazy houses and cars showing up to high school. I was just like, what the heck is this? Like I've never seen anything like that. And so there's a big disconnect, socially.
Mm.
And so then I think I definitely was very much introverted and just did a lot of activities, reading in my room, studying, learning different concepts, whether it be like I remember I downloaded a a software and was trying to learn coding in my room for, several weeks. Like that was like, okay, what fun activities that I could do by myself to just continue learning
Mm.
um, and kind of developing that muscle. And so the extroverted muscle was a skill that I had that took time to develop that I really didn't fully exercise until I graduated college.
It seems that you've been learning a lot of stuff, coding, golf and this and that. Like, wow, reading books. So, okay, what was the specific I don't know, genre or like specific type of books that you used to read? Or like you just randomly just picked a book and just like started reading? Like, did you have like a favorite book or just like favorite niche, I would say?
Yeah, I think it's definitely developed over time. I was definitely into like Greek mythology. I think I've read
Okay.
all of like the Percy Jackson series. Here's Olympus. Like I loved that like demigod gods era growing up
Oh,
because like
yeah.
you kind of create a world and uh you kind of see these people be more than people and you're
Mm,
like wow, that kind of like superhero genre was super fun or like thinking you have powers or whatnot. And then as I got more just matured and realized what the world was actually like and started working, I think I got a much more interested in stories, whether it be like um, the stories about Wall Street in 2000s or '08 with the Michael Lewis books or founder focused books like The New Thing by Jim Clark on him founding Netscape in 2000 and like the fight against Microsoft or with Phil Knight with Nike or Ben Weiss with Buy. He sold his beverage company for $1.6 billion
mm,
to Dr. Pepper. Um, I started reading a ton of more of those books that are like, these superheroes that you kind of see in fantasy. You're like, whoa, okay, there's actual superheroes in real life that are doing these
mm,
crazy things. Like, how'd they do it? So I guess the same, it's still on the same facet of these people that just do extraordinary things in life and
yeah.
understanding kind of that dynamic of how they started, how they got there, and what their
Mm,
lives were like
mm,
and how that comes to reality. So that and it still seems like a fantasy, I often have conversation with friends, just like, yeah, like people that start amazing things are superheroes,
mm.
to create amazing things in life. Like so many things have to go right. There has to be such an obsession with success, and you literally create a new reality out of thin air. Like that's a superhero. Yeah.
I had a question about that crisis, right? So you mentioned before that your parents filed for bankruptcy when the crisis happened. And how old were you at that time when that happened? Uh, like precisely.
I was 8 years old.
So, and obviously you knew about that fact that they filed for bankruptcy at that time, or did you not? When it
I
was
kind
8 years.
of did, but definitely not to like the full extent of what it meant. I just knew there was a lot of stress
Yeah.
and uncertainty within the family that was, fell on more of like an energy level.
Because the reason why I'm asking this is because, I've heard a lot of stories, like I've successful people, right? And they've always had this, traumatic situations, some of them, and for example, if one of their parents, if they're single parents or if their parents are struggling, ever since a young age, they think like they're the ones who should step up or something. So like they do kind of had that, I mean, that realization or in like any way that okay, oh, something is bad and I need to do, I don't know, I just need to take the responsibility as soon as I can, or that kind of mindset, that just gets generated automatically, I don't know, somehow, because of that situation, like traumatic situation or just that, anything. So did you personally ever feel that or sense that you had that or you just didn't know it well to realize it, you know?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, I think there was being mature enough and developed enough to understand that that I as a person had the ability to make change and to impact not only the family but the people around me. That was very apparent. And I also think my parents did do a very good job of making that a possibility in my mind. I
Mm.
remember my dad from an early age, when I was playing golf, he'd call me the ticket. So it was like the ticket, to success. It was like,
Wow, man.
and so like really having the encouragement and your own father telling you that level of belief,
Mm,
I think it naturally builds you up over time
mm,
to believe that you can do amazing things. And so yes, I was blessed that I had that reinforcement and encouragement, and I held that within myself to a high standard, and really had a lot of yeah, just I think through doing these hard things throughout my life has kind of, yeah, reinforces that self-belief that you are the person that is going to do change and is going to make significant impact that will impact family, friends, the people in your community, and that's 100% developed into thinking that that's as possible. Yeah, absolutely.
that's amazing. Um, so whom did you look up to besides your parents, obviously, when you were a child? Like, who were your heroes, quote unquote? Like, any?
I think I I've never like viewed um like high profile, like I've never viewed high profile people as like something that's not attainable or like held to like idolization.
Mm,
I did grow up very religious in Christianity, and hold many of those moral beliefs for how I operate on a day-to-day basis. And so I've never had like had any idols. I've always and continued to develop that, like on this level, like even someone that's held to fame or very successful, like they're very, very human at the surface. Um, so I more looked like around my immediate circle, and I would either see for my parents, 100% was a young age, and then
mm,
through most of my friendships early on life were through golf, and I got to know many close friends that are still my close friends today, and I got to meet their parents, and saw different levels of success, whether it be like a very, very close family. One of my good friends they have four siblings. They're all pursuing very ambitious endeavors. One works in LA with SpaceX. One
wow.
is in investment banking, started in Atlanta and now lives in Los Angeles as well, working for a private equity firm. One started in New York in investment banking, and I saw like how their family dynamic was. I first met him when I was about 13, 14 years old and spent a lot of time with his family, and just saw like how you can have different levels of success from different families, and different behaviors that could, I saw like the good and bad of yeah, those different family dynamics, and I said, okay, I really like that. I want that in my life. And I looked at another family and saw how they hosted people. One family was like a big host. They'd always have these gatherings of 5 to 15 people, seemed like every week for dinners and whatnot. So I'd go over there and see how they would treat people when they entered their house. My family's very like close-knit family, so most of our gatherings were just like us four siblings, or me, my brother, and then my parents, so four people in total. Um, and so we never had that like host mentality. So I'd go over to their house and they were, yeah, making dinners and drinks for everyone and serving everyone at the table and having these like, yeah, big conversations with friends and family that would come in. Um, so I looked up to a lot of the people in my immediate circle, and kind of gained a very good scope of like, oh yeah, I love that, I love that, I love that. I want all these good things, and how can I kind of circle them all up and build a life that was the best of what I saw.
Damn, I mean, it makes sense now, historical defined who you are now, and it turns out to be great and amazing. That's wow. That's inspiring. And yeah. And also, I would now, okay, so let's get started into let's dive deep into okay, before we do, I saw a clip of yours. You were wearing a red t-shirt and I think white cap and on YouTube, by the way, it was like a golf video. And you yeah, so like are you a professional golfer? Like how do
I
you even 'cause that clip was pretty professional. It was okay, you just swung it and it was like wow. Like there's gotta be professional. But I think it seemed like you were way younger than the cup was, uploaded. I think it was under the name of the Big M or something. Yeah, Big Mason makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I mean I started playing competitively basically when we left Wyoming, so right when I was around 8, 9 years old, and then really started playing in tournaments when I was around 12. Um and yeah, I mean I that kind of like that mentality that I had where I wouldn't really go out and I'd focus on more disciplinary things and skills. Golf was one of those things that, I knew I could, same thing with school. I could work on something for 4 hours every single day and you would just get really good at it. And I saw that same concept that I applied to school and I just applied it to a skill set. And I knew after, repetition and kind of memorizing, doing the same thing over and over again. I think a lot of people, yeah, don't like school for that same facet because it's very monotonous, it's repetition, and it doesn't really seem fruitful. Whereas I saw it as a game and something that you could nail down and get really good at something if you just did it over and over and over again. And I applied that to golf growing up and started playing a lot of tournaments, played in high school. We ended up winning our state championship my junior year of high school, which was awesome. Most of our players on our team went on to play at big D1 schools. One's currently on the cusp of turning professional, playing in tournaments all around the country and going on the PGA route. So it was awesome just to uh, be around people that were really better than you in a lot of ways and seeing what they did to be the best in their skill set. And I think that's very apparent in sports and particularly in golf, because golf's one thing where anyone can get really good at it. Doesn't matter if you're quote unquote fit naturally. You could be a super out of shape person and be one of the best golfers just because you could dial in that skill set over and over and over again. And it's all about feel, it's about patience, and it's very much a mental game. It takes a long time to play around a golf. And if you make a mistake, on the second or third hole, that can impact your whole round. But you still got to play the next 15 holes, which would be 4 hours. So you really got to like um, take the mistakes you made, figure them out quickly, deal with them mentally, and figure out how to finish. And that was a very apparent.
Do you
It was
still
awesome that that was a disciplinary that I got early in life because it transcends to so many different facets of life.
yeah, we're back. Yeah, I'll get a premium when I get monetized on YouTube. My
Yeah, that's fair.
apologies.
I respect it, man. I love it.
Okay.
You're a
Yeah.
very good interviewer, dude.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'm just like beginner. I'm just starting out, but yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think the biggest thing is like, dude, you could be like a way worse. It's like skill wise when you first start anything, like you could be way worse than anyone starting it. But like the pure differentiator is just like how excited you are to do what you're doing.
I
And
am
you do
truly
seem
am.
very excited
Yeah.
and that's gonna catapult you into
I'm
um
curious, excited,
in
everything.
curiosity exactly.
Yeah. Richard Feynman. I've been watching Richard Feynman for a while. So yeah.
The good. I love
Curiosity,
it.
curiosity. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now let's talk about your college. Did you do a lot of stuff in college? Like uh maybe you started a venture before Divini, or did you just yeah, straight up started Divini after you graduated, or in the middle, or like thought of the idea? Because I did read that, you were in your kitchen and you just made a random, a drink, and then you just showed it to your family and friends, and then those family and friends to your some friends, and then 4 to 10, 10 to 20, and then the next thing you know, 8 months later, it's a brand, it's official, right?
Sure.
So yeah. So well, like, did you do any before Divini? Did you do anything before, or like it was like your first ever kind of venture, I would say?
Yeah. So the build up from college to August of 2023, when I started with Divini, I was yeah, I was doing a lot in college. So I was playing collegiate golf. I was doing around 15 to 18 credits a semester. And then I was also working. So my first, I guess, like summer job, well, my first job was at a club. I carried a bag for 18 holes, talk to them, help them just play better golf. That was a big, like, first, I guess, job that was very, like, social based. And then I stayed in the golf industry the summer of 2020. I built golf clubs at a manufacturing facility here in Scottsdale for a brand called PXG. And then the next summer, I knew I was studying accounting. So the summer of 2021, I worked in their accounts receivables department at their headquarters. So I would basically just for AR aging reports, people that 30, 60, 90 days, checking in on them, collecting invoices, filing refunds, taking banknotes, transfers, all that kind of on like the business side. So like that was a good first job in the industry. And then I worked that for basically that whole year. So I was able to convince them that I could do it in college as well. So like my senior year of college, I'd wake up at 6. I'd work from 6 to 8 on the computer. I was making like $18 an hour, which was actually really good.
Mhm.
So I would like make some cash in the morning just as a college student in my dorm, like working for a company. And then,
What
and
did you exactly do for the company?
It was just in their accounts receivable department, so I was just one of their accounting employees
Okay,
that
okay.
would just help them basically just manage cash, and um, and that was a skill that they had yet to automate. That's actually why I stopped doing it because they automated the job, which made
And
sense on their end.
how do you get this job, by the way? Like, did you apply or did you get it through a connection or?
It was 100% through networking. I mean, pretty much all of the jobs that I've gotten in life, I've never formally applied for a job and got accepted and started the job.
Wow.
All of my employment has been through knowing people or being referred. And through caddying, like that was through a friend that was in the caddy program, and he said I should hop on. I met with he got me a meeting with the caddy master, and I guess he liked me, and he was like, "All right, you can start working here for accounting or for PXG." I actually knew the current COO of the company, Brad Swigert, through the golf industry because I was actually playing their golf clubs as a kid. Um, so I was one of the first junior golfers to play PXGs when they first launched. Because Bob Parsons, he's a Mongol out here in Arizona. He sold a company called GoDaddy, which was an internet starter.
GoDaddy.
Yeah,
I,
so Bob Parsons sold GoDaddy and launched PXG, and then he brought on Brad Swagger, who's now kind of his second command at PXG. So I knew him through golf.
wow.
So he approached me and he's like, "Hey, do you know any kids? We need like some cheap employment for the manufacturing facility, like 7 kids." So I was like, "Hey, like you can just hire me. Actually, I'm looking for a job and I'll find all your employees for you." He said, "Okay." So I helped him hire like 5 of my friends, and we just worked in their manufacturing that whole summer. And then
Huh.
when the next year was coming around, I reached back out to him and said, "Hey, I'm studying accounting. Do you have any spots in your accounting department?" And he made an intro to the controller at the time of the accounting department. So I got that. Yeah, it was literally through your network.
GoDaddy company. I know that company very well. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, dude, it's all about your circle and just being a good person and continuing to work on making yourself valuable. And when the right opportunities come around and hey, I'm poking around looking for something,
I'm looking.
naturally, I think a lot of people can open a lot of doors.
I don't know about anyone else, but I'm looking for that opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So yes, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's there, man. It's there.
It's out there. Yeah, definitely. So, probiotic tea and with accounting, it seems a completely different, industries, right? So, so did you? when you were in the kitchen, brewing that, tea, was it like in college or was it after college, that process?
It was about 2 years after college.
Two
So
years.
I actually my first job in the real world, I just graduated and I was looking to apply to a bank actually in St. Louis and to start in kind of the middle market banking industry and I ended up my buddy was friends with this person from high school, our age, and her dad had a boutique M&A investment banking firm where they would basically transact companies. So they were consultants, and then on the sell side of M&A, they had a firm in Scottsdale, and they were looking for analysts.
Mm.
And so that was probably in May, and I started working there 1st of June. So that was like an opportunity that came up a week before I was supposed to graduate. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no real options, and an opportunity came up, and I met with the partners, and they had a role that they needed to fill immediately, and I had a value add to what they were looking for, and my background in accounting was great for kind of business, understanding finances, working in Excel. So that just opportunity came up, and I jumped at it, and so I ended up working there for basically, yeah, for the start of 2022 when I graduated. And then um, about a year went by. And then in August of 23, so basically a year after employment is when I first started brewing tea.
Wow, that's yeah, amazing. So I first of all, I love the name Divini, right? How did you come across? And I think it means divine, I guess, but how did you choose this name, right?
I was so when I first started brewing the tea, like the actual brewing process was fun, like making a like fermenting a tea, bottling it, selling it to people. Like I knew I was providing people with a very like niche product, which is super cool. And then, but the add-on to that, it's like, okay, if you're really gonna make something out of this, like there has to be a brand behind it. It has to be labeled. It has to be something that people want to not only consume the liquid, but also be a part of what it represents as well. So I started with Scoby Drinks was kind of like the first name. Scoby is
Okay.
like the actual acronym for the culture that creates the fermentation to Scoby Drinks, and then it was going to be the Divine Tea as a tagline. And I was going through different label renditions and kind of like taglines for that. And then when I went upon the trademark process of like, okay, if you're going to have a name, you should trademark it so that way people can't use your name for other products. So you kind of have control over the selling capability of that.
Mhm.
And then when you trademark something, you can't really trademark like an ingredient. And SCOBY is an ingredient of the product. It's like trying to trademark the name water. So it has to be something like unique that's not really attributed to the actual beverage. So that was in like February of 2024. And I was like, okay, I mean, I do like Divine. And that kind of started to be like the foundation of what the branding was. And I was just looking up um, basically different like language translations. Usually, like a lot of my friends, like they'll have a name, they'll either take like part of two different like roots of a foreign
Mhm.
language and combine it
Mhm.
to make a the name of their company or their product. So I was like, okay, what does divine mean in different languages? And the first one, I've Italian ancestry, so divine in Italian was Divini. And I was like, man, that really kind of
Oh,
that flows nicely. And then I did all the
oh,
research on whether Divini was used in the consumer package space in any category. It wasn't really used at all. So in February, I kind of transitioned to that and then filed my trademark. And that's how that came about. Yeah.
okay. Divini, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, divine.
Yeah.
So when did you know, like, okay, I can make a brand out of this, or I can sell this to a lot of people and just run a business, right? When did you know? Like, what was that moment? I'm pretty sure it probably like one of those moments would have been that a lot of people liked it, but like, there's always these moments where, only the person who creates it like gets it. Okay, you can actually I don't know, scale it, get it across the world, or in the state, in the city, in the country. It's like like what was that moment for you personally? We want to know.
I think there's three particular moments that stand out. One, when I was 3 or 4 months in the process of brewing, in December, I got in touch with the University of Arizona, and they had a food science department that they would do blind taste studies. So I wanted to find somewhere where I could take my liquid, the tea, and compare it with different brands that are already out there and get an unbiased, review of the product. Obviously,
Right.
your friends and family are going to support you and say, "Hey, this is amazing," but I was like, "No, I want complete random strangers to try the product and tell me whether it's going to be good or not." And so I ended up putting together a 40-person blind taste test with the university. And I took the two biggest kombucha brands in the world, GT Dave and Health Aid. Combined, they're at probably $500 million in revenue. And they had two apple flavors, and I had my apple cinnamon flavor. So I
Apple.
brought, yeah, like 5 bottles of my home batch, and then I bought 5 and 5, and we put together this taste test. And we did it basically on like 10 different variables on taste, smell, um, consistency, aroma, aftertaste. And after the results were in, Health Aid scored around a 6.3 on overall likability. Um, my home batch scored about a 6.9, and GT's scored about a 7.1. So I basically blew Health Aid out of the water, and they were, yeah, bringing in around, 200 million dollars a year in revenue last year. And I was right below GT, who's like the staple of fermented tea in the United States. So at that moment, I was like, oh wow, okay, like people actually like this, and there's a separation there between this actually being something. So that was really unique. I think right when I sold, I mean, I was pretty much brewing around, I got up to brewing around 100 bottles between, I had like 3 vats brewing about 40 gallons of the liquid in my apartment. And I was pretty much selling through every time to friends and family. So I sold around 600 bottles span of 4 or 5 months on my home brew. So I had some just consistency with like people that legitimately enjoyed the beverage and paid for a subscription. I had like 5 subscriptions on my e-commerce site. And then at that point as well, I started just to talk with people in the health space that were already established in life and that were investors. And our first investor that invested in our company um, during June of last year, I actually approached him at a conference he was doing in Phoenix, and I brought 4 flavors of my home batch to his. He was speaking, and after I was talking with him and said, "Hey, I know you're into health and wellness. Like, would you like to try? I'm home brewing this tea that's not on the market anywhere. Do you want to try some?" He was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, I'll try one." So I opened up my like cooler and told him the flavor options, and he took one home. And he got in touch with me a week later and said, like, that was really good. Like, what are you trying to do here? And so I started to talk with him on that. I knew he was an angel investor, and I was like, if this got to a certain point, like, would you invest in this? And he was like, yeah, if you had the opportunities and everything lined up, business wise to actually make this reality, like call me. So I was like, okay, there's traction from someone that, would have this in his portfolio. And so that was a big part. So yeah, the selling component, the proof from outside, people that have never tried it, and then some traction on having, some leads on investors was like the point in which, I need to go all in on this and to actually see
Mm.
it through. And I was loving what I was doing. I mean, creating something from scratch, visualizing that, like I've never had so much fun doing something in my life. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Um, so then I ended up quitting my banking job in February. And
Last February, right?
yep, yeah, about a year ago. And
Almost.
I had a decent amount of money saved up from, those year and a half of employment. And so I took 2 months off from work, and then I really went all in on, okay, I hired a couple different people make labels. I went around the country visiting co-packing facilities that were producing kombucha, and because I was trying to figure out how I was going to produce it. I was either going to become a brewer, basically, and open up my own brewery, or I was going to find a co-packing partner that already knew, had everything made out as far as the actual manufacturing process, and then I could focus more on like the brand building element if I knew I had a strong partner behind me making the product. Um,
Uh, One question. How much did the investor invest in your company?
So he put up right when we found the co-packing partner that I'm working with right now, Walatonic, who happens to be in Cottonwood, which is actually my number one competitor when I was doing my market analysis. Um, and right when we had that deal and I had everything lined up brand wise, I'd also just finished my first official brand rendition that I was doing a small survey
Mm.
on, basically saying like, hey, here's the brand concept. Like, what do you think? So right when I had the first rendition of like the current Divini label, and then I had the co-packer set up, and then it was just a matter of like, all right, I'm ready to rock and roll. And he called me one morning and said, hey, I'm usually very transparent on whether, I'm going to invest, and so I want to put $25,000 in
Okay,
to the
wow.
project.
Mm.
So that was the first lead I got, and then the next week he brought in one of his buddies to put in 5K, and then in the span of a month, I raised an additional 75,000.
75,000 on
Yep.
top of
So
30,000. That's 100,000.
on top of 30,000. Yep. So we had basically in the span of a month, I had 105K into the business to start the first run,
Wow.
finalized, and we didn't have a website or anything up, so all the funding went to the packaging, paying for the first run of products, for getting the website up. Um, and yeah, just making that concept a reality, and putting money to product.
Oh, wow, it's so inspiring. Oh my, okay. Um, uh, okay, first of all, the moment last Feb when you were about to quit your job, not even for 1 second, did you like ask yourself, okay, I'm about to leave my job. Like, did you not think that, okay, if I do this, what if something fails? Like, what if something goes wrong? Or, like, did you not get these type of thoughts? And if you did, how do you tackle those? Or like, were you like really confident that, okay, this is gonna work, you know? Or were you just like kind of, feeling stressed out, but at the same time, you were like, we only live one life, so let's just go for it and let's just go all in. How are you so confident with this?
I think the confidence came from knowing that the product actualized was enough of a differentiator in the market to provide a value add that wasn't there. So I was confident in the product. And as the branding kind of came together, I really believed in what I could turn the branding into. And I just knew that, and I didn't have any of the branding made, right? But the picture in my mind was so strong of what it would become, that I just knew that people would resonate with what the concept of the brand was and what we were trying to build. And at the time, I was also living with my buddy Ryan, who had a startup of his own. He's in the social media, crypto investing platform. So he didn't go to college. He raised um, about 1.5 million out of high school to start his startup,
Okay.
and
Mm.
he'd been living the startup life of like, had employees, burned through capital to get his product up, and went through several different partners, tried to find a team fit. Relationships didn't work out. Almost got to the point of where he had to put his, and, offer his investors their money back. Um, got traction with his app. Now he's at around 200,000 users, and about
200,000.
to launch kind of the second arm of his platform. And now he's working with some of the biggest people in the trading space and the social space around the United States.
Mm.
And living with him, he was a big factor in me quitting my job, and really pushed to, hey, you have an idea. you're just gonna think about this idea for the next 5 years, 10 years, and just keep working, or are you gonna actually try it? It's either gonna succeed or fail. It's gonna succeed, and you're gonna live a much, better life than you currently are. Being able to do what you want to do and have the all the fun that comes with the actual building components, or you're gonna, look back after continuing to work a job that, like the job I had, it was awesome. I learned so much about business, but there's always this itch of like I wanted to do a lot, and unless you're in an organization where you have ultimate creative freedom and the route to do so, like you're going to be stifled on growth and creativity. And oftentimes that's why people go into entrepreneurship because they want to work 80, 90 hours and they want to reach out to a ton of people, but unless that person has, faith in you doing so, there's naturally going to be a barrier on what you can achieve. So if you think you can achieve more, then it's just like, all right, I need to go out and do this myself and have that, freedom to to work and create opportunities. So I
Your
really felt that I could do that with this.
I mean, your situation, your example shows that your circle really plays a vital role in what the person you'll become and what you are. So, wow, that's amazing that your roommate, Ryan, he was able to raise that kind of money at such a young age, and he had that entrepreneurial spirit already, and then it influenced you to just, also go for it. And yeah, yeah, it's great that you did. It's really wow. Um, so okay, that's again inspiring. So, um, I mean, since okay, so what's this one piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started? Like before you started, like going all in on Divini, you knew that okay,
I think that, I mean, a lot of what I've learned is, um, at the end of the day, you are creating a business, right?
mm,
And you could raise as much money as possible and have these crazy concepts. But what's really gonna, okay, at the end of the day, you are building a business, and the purpose of business is to generate revenue and provide
cash
value
flow.
to the people you're serving.
Mm,
Um, and sometimes it's hard to separate, you are having fun and you're providing a service, and kind of making sure the foundation of what you're doing is for business growth. Sometimes gets construed, and to really, at one point you kind of look around, you're like, man, I really need to execute on these value add services because,
mm,
I've realized that at the end of the day, like there's really two ways that anyone is successful in this world. You're either providing a service to people or you're selling a product to people, and everyone's going to be a consumer of either, right? Um, and it's either through educational or entertainment, and and in whatever venture you do, like you have to provide a value add to the people you're serving, and to have that as a focal point always. I think that's a very big mentality that I continue to try to remember every single day. And it's easy to build for the purpose of building rather than building for the purpose of providing value and having your entity generate money so that you can keep doing what you're doing and continue servicing the people that you're doing it for. So that's a big thing that's been on my mind recently, and just making that a centerpiece. And it's all about your foundations, you know. You need to get to a point where you look at your business and say, okay, I have for me, for instance, it's like there's people that are going to be involved in the entity. So you're either going to have maybe some employees to start. So I was paying some people to, go around town, sell products, to community events. And then at some point, there's going to be a select amount of people that want to buy into your vision.
mhm,
And so now I have basically a co-founder I'm bringing on that, he was our basically the complete opposite of me, where he's very loves social media as a videographer. he started his own magazine. He's very like brand focused and like visual and knows how to talk with creators and like lives that kind of creator life. Like that's an opposite of my personality where I am very much like internal, on the finance side, accounting, like numbers and product visualization, and then having someone that can that's not really that focused, like finding that counterbalance. So he's gonna come on and basically he approached me last week and was like, "Hey, I don't like I want you to stop paying me because if this is gonna stifle business growth, like that money needs to go towards business, it doesn't need to go to me." So that was
Same.
like one of the first conversations I had with someone with like buying in to the vision, and you kind of like naturally gain traction on people that are like, I see what you're doing, and like I believe in this just as much as you do, and I want in on that.
Okay.
Um,
The exact moment happened when I was interviewing William, right? William, and his co-founder, like he was paying his co-founder a lot of money before, like when he hired him. And then his co-founder was like, you know what? I see a vision. I see something. I want in. I want to join in as a co-founder. And the similar thing happened to you as well. Okay. Wow.
yeah, and that's awesome to see, and you need a lot of people in your corner to push as
Yeah.
big as a vision that you're trying to do, and
But
you need to provide incentive for them to want to do so, right? That's a very big part.
I mean, I've always looked up to Steve Jobs, right? And his mission, starting at least, was to revolutionize the industry of personal computers, right? So it was his like actual mission. Like for in your example, like since you're in like in this probiotic tea health industry, drink industry, like did you go and you were like, you know what, there needs to be some kind of change. I need to revolutionize this industry, or like what was the mission? Like, was it like money, or is it this passion, or you just had to do like something of your own, or you just thought, okay, this could be big, so let's just go for it and let's see what happens. Like, what was your mindset? Like, like, do you have a mission when you were, about to this initial stage?
Yeah, it is very, very, very mission driven. And the problem I'm trying to solve um, with this beverage in particular, but honestly, like what I'm trying to do in the world is there is a big need within the United States that I've seen with our pharmaceutical system, with our food system, which has been, the result of what America offers, and through a capitalist system, like you're able to build these incredible things. And I mean, the United States is a big country, and I think that's been so awesome for so many industries. But with the food and like health system in particular, like it doesn't really work that way. And I've seen companies come in with the soda industry, with it started with like the cigarette industry, and that moved into the food and beverage industry as well. And there's just so many people that are living very unhealthily, and it's a product of kind of the system that America's been.
Mhm.
And the mission has really been like, how do you create product and branding that transcends past the current offering of food, soda companies, which, in its essence are kind of marketing companies as well. The amount of ad spend and through sports and movies, and like I just saw a movie last week. It was an AMC movie, and like at the end they're cracking a Coca-Cola can and drinking it. Like there's so
Product
much of like
placement.
a kind of a brainwash that you've
Yeah.
seen in the American system, and I think it's harmed a lot of people's lives. So there needs to be organizations and companies that come in and shift branding towards a more of a holistic route, and to provide beverages and offerings that replace those that are currently present. So the real mission is getting people healthy and replacing brands that don't have that facet, and instead replace them with more brands that are focused on, how to solve the inflammation problem within people's bodies, how to have people think that they can do more with their lives and not have them be complacent in like this negative thought pattern that everything's happening to them, where they're not, a control of their own lives. And I do believe that starts on a consumption level. You are what you consume, and not only from
Definitely.
a food and beverage standpoint, but through knowledge and through books and through if you believe you can do something and you truly believe that you can do it, like you're just gonna inevitably do it. So consumption is what's going to change the course of history within people's lives.
Yeah, probiotic drinks, I think they're gaining a lot of popularity, especially like nowadays. So what makes Divini different than the current market that exists for probiotic drinks?
So I think Divini's biggest standout, especially in the probiotics market. I mean, so to consume probiotics, you're either going to have to consume, and the basis of probiotics is fermentation. So you're either going to have to consume fermented vegetables, kimchi, sauerkraut, um, fermented milk products like kefir,
Hmm.
um, kombucha, or in our case, jun, which is like the honey-based fermentation. Kombucha takes black tea and sugar, ferments it, and what's left over is basically that like culture. The big part about kombucha is that it is using sugar as its um, sugar source, like pure, just unrefined sugar. And so what's left over is part of that sugar that's still in the beverage. You can ferment it pretty much to actualization where you deplete a lot of that, but in our case, like we're using honey as the sugar source. So honey being a superfood naturally, and the benefits from honey individually is very surmount with its anti-inflammatory characteristics, um, and the green tea element as well, as opposed to black tea.
Hmm.
And the palatability of the product as well. It's a very soft, um, almost like champagne-y taste, whereas a lot of fermented products are very like harsh and vinegary. And honey's that just beautiful ingredient that adds that natural sweetness, and metabolized in your body so much different than just like an unrefined sugar. So people can still have that like natural sweetness that people are accustomed to while still being a natural sugar source. And then the taste profile is just very, very sweet and palatable versus like just other probiotic supplements. So that's a big piece of why the product in itself is very delightful.
Okay. Wow. Can you like tell us like couple maybe like one or two facts about probiotic drinks that a lot of people don't know? Like just some facts.
One of the coolest things when I started doing this research, one of the first books I read actually was a book called Brain Maker, and it talked about the basically the functionality of your stomach, your gut health, and
Yeah.
how that um, influences your entire body. I mean, your body is quite literally a living organ, full of bacteria. I mean, you have billions of microbes in your body, um, and and I think it's funny how people are like afraid of bacteria, and people have like hand sanitizer and always trying to like cleanse themselves. And so it seems like weird that you want to like put bacteria in your body. Um, and but when you put probiotics in your stomach, I mean your stomach lining becomes
Mm.
stronger. You're able to build up your immune system, so you're able to fight off ailments. Um, Low-grade inflammation is one of like the leading factors for preventable diseases within humans. So if you're constantly feeding your body with like bacteria that's going to help in resistance against inflammation and disease, I mean, you're basically like fortifying your whole entire being to be a vessel for good growth instead of um, just bad bacterial growth that leads to, yeah, diseases. So making your stomach strong. I mean, stomach's like your gut health is basically 80% of your immune system. So
Mm, yeah.
if you're feeding yourself good things, that's why consumption is so big. And that naturally transcends so much past like just a healthier stomach. I mean, your skin's like the biggest bacteria organ on your body. So that was one of the biggest things growing up. I had very bad acne. And I think it was from consuming a lot of things. Like I've always eaten pretty healthy, but even from like grains and certain foods, like not great dairy sources, and not really consuming probiotics at all. And once I kind of switched to a diet that was very fruit-based, like consuming a ton of probiotics, very nourishing supplements. I mean, like my skin's now very, very clear
Glowing.
and healthy. And my body just didn't naturally, yeah, it needed that to flourish.
Mm,
Not only from the physical standpoints, but also your mental health as well. I mean, so if your body's constantly under stress, think about how much that influences your mental health and your ability to handle daily, like stresses in your life.
mm,
And so, if you are consuming probiotics daily, then you're basically setting yourself up not only to feel good, to look good, to make your skin healthy, but also your mind as well to be able to fight depression, to fight anxiety, to fight stresses.
uh-huh.
It's all I truly believe it's the absolute pivotal staple to making yourself successful in life.
Amazing. Um, okay, I read that you have high quality ingredients on your high quality and authentic ingredients in your drink, and you talked about it as well. How do you like ensure that they're high quality? Like, do you, yeah, what do you do to make them just uh
So
high
for
quality?
our product in particular, the goal was to have the simplest product possible. And to have it all come from whole natural sources. So we use four ingredients. The base is a tea and honey, and then we add basically a fruit and a herb.
Mm,
So we source organic green tea and organic honey um, from some of the best suppliers in the world. So we get our organic honey from Brazil. We import it. Organic honey's basically impossible to find in America because bees pollinate at a very broad scope, and America doesn't really have the system set up to ensure that all the plants and vegetation and areas organic through our
mm,
our pesticide use and how we spray crops and whatnot. Um, so we have a very strong supplier out of Brazil. For the honey, we get our green tea overseas as well from Bangladesh. And then for our fruits and herbs that we use, for example, we use an organic apple juice concentrate from a company that's certified organic. I've seen the process online of basically making like the apple, and we basically get these like buckets of the concentrate, and it's basically like a caramelized apple. So they take apples, they compress it, um, they heat it, they cool it, and the end produce is basically like a caramelized like
mm,
apple liquid. So it's just like taking an apple and compressing it down to like a soluble. And then for our cinnamon extract that we're using, I found the best supplier out of California that basically takes cinnamon and they take an alcohol-based super low concentrate to provide, a couple droplets can have like a very strong cinnamon taste, and it's just water, a soluble alcohol, and cinnamon. So and then
Did you,
having those
hmm,
ingredients to, just put together the best liquid possible was the goal.
did you travel to countries like Brazil and Bangladesh by yourself to check this stuff out, or did you just um, like research?
The what I did to do that was, I mean, so like our co-packing partner Wild Tonic, they've had their product on the market since 2015. Holly, the founder, has gone to where the places were sourced, and that's how she originally established relationships with the people. And
Mm,
so I've relied on her and our relationship, and yeah, just seen kind of the backgrounds of the suppliers and the people, and her contracts that she had in place through the green tea and the honey specifically. Um, so yes, as an organization, we've gone out and kind of made it so that way we have faith and the where we're sourcing the products and the actual products we're giving out to the people through our products. Yes, absolutely.
okay, that's fair. Okay, okay, let's talk about figures. Okay, so how much profit have you made till this date? You don't have to be exact, but just like a rough figure.
Yeah, absolutely. So our first run we did was about 2,500 cans, about 433 cases.
Hmm.
That was in October. We pretty much sold out. We have about 40, 50 cases left. We have around 15 accounts in Phoenix that currently sell our product. Um, we sell right now for basically on like a MSRP on resale for 4.49 a can. We retail for right around $4, and then we wholesale for around $3. So on a resale value, people are getting around 50% um, margin on the resale through our partners, and then wholesaling for $3. So we sold around just under $10,000 in our first couple months of product on the market, and then the big thing with beverage, like it is all volumes and working up to a point of both building the brand strong enough to where distributors and retail partners have faith in taking you on that your product's going to sell and enough people kind of know about who you are.
Hmm.
And then having the volumes to kind of meet those demands, which, beverage is a very, very hard market. And the strongest differentiator that you can have is through that branding. And a lot of companies that have done really well recently, with like Liquid Death, for example, like having that strong marketing arm
Hmm.
be the basis, and then having the product and the system set up on the back end to be able to supply that need. So recognizing that, and it's building up to a point where we can continue servicing and growing relations, and building up that brand image strong enough to where people around our immediate circle want to try the product.
Hmm.
Um, Really figuring out how to dominate that sector, not spreading yourself too thin too quick, getting a strong fan base, and then strategically kind of expanding from there.
Hmm.
And having the back end set up to where you're able to service those promises. And if you take on a big client, we could get a deal right now with Sprouts, Whole Foods, Walmart, and unless you have the system set up to service it, I mean, you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure. So it's been fun to operate at this stage from like a grassroots perspective, and to figure out ways. That's what I was kind of talking before, like the facet of business is kind of building up your floor and
Hmm.
building up more and more and more. And so to kind of see where your current burn is for a month, and then being able to service that to where you can sustain, without bringing in more and more money and making promises. So, if your burn is 5 grand for the month, like you need to figure out a way where you can generate 5 grand a month to break even on costs, and then that's your base. And then it's like, all right, now it's like, okay, do you bring in more money, and do you have uses for that money? And then how do you make your output 20 grand a month? And then do you have the system set up to, and now it's like, okay, well, we need more sales force, and then um, we need to produce more products. So how do you kind of match that with the money that's coming in, and make sure you don't kind of fall under that? So that's
Okay.
been a big focus.
That's wow. Okay. It's amazing. Do you see yourself running this company for the next 5, 10 years? Are you in the long run for this, or do you think there'll be a point where you just, you know?
I think I'm absolutely in the long term for this, 100%. I truly believe in the brand side, and really making that just as much of the focus point as the product side. And I think when that's apparent, and you have the desire to do that, I think if you're just in it for the product, and you get to a point where the product gets big enough, and then okay, maybe you have an exit opportunity, or else wants to come in, it's kind of like, yeah, sure. Um, but I've kind of built the brand so much in unison with my own beliefs, to where I really want to be a part of that growth as it expands, for as long as I can. Um, and there's definitely other things on that health subject that I want to do in life. And I mean, really, it's just about how do you create the brand big enough to where now your network
Mm,
grows and you're
mm,
able to meet more people that can make larger impacts in the world. Um, because I do think like beverages, this is almost like a catalyst for kind of making the next impactful thing. And I do realize that. Um, and so using this as a platform for both like social awareness, to as a tester to really learn the industry as far as like how food and beverage travels. Um, the next project I would love to undertake in conjunction with Divini would be kind of figuring out a big part of the food system. And I talked about like America's very big. The food system is very reliant on imports and exports. And so, to produce like really, really good organic food, it's kind of hard to do if it's not localized. And so a thought I've had was, how do you take some of the major cities in the world and build out kind of localized farm systems around those cities and and to have that kind of feed in to the population at a very local level. If a city got most of its products local, how do you build out a system for that to be possible and and have enough people kind of desiring those products? And I think as naturally as the consumer trends
mm.
are focusing more and more on like, no, I do want good food. I do understand that, your body is a vessel for creation. I want to consume really, strong ingredients. Um, so yeah, I see Divini as this very strong like social movement as well from a product standpoint and growing within the industry. Um, and I do feel like it'd be just a natural, awesome catalyst to kind of throw you into the the possibilities of what you can do past beverage and into food and health.
Okay, real quick, I was kind of curious. Are you like focusing? I mean, I saw that you have a lot of numerous stores uh, in Scottsdale, Arizona itself. So are you like focusing more on local markets, e-commerce, or partnerships, like the retail partnerships? Like, what's your primary focus right now?
Right now, it's been very focused on kind of those local shops.
Okay.
Again, a lot of the
You
bigger retailers won't really take you seriously unless they see you have that track record. So a lot of it's been, we're very involved around our community. We show up to a lot of different events. We've done anything from like a morning wellness events where they bring like cold plunges and saunas and they do a Pilates workout and we'll come and hang out with the community and offer our beverages. We've showed up to pickleball events within the community. We showed up to flea markets. One of our buddies, Ronnie, who runs a flea market here in Phoenix, we pulled up to their, clothing market and sold our beverages, or offered samples to their community. Um, we've done a lot of different, yeah, brand awareness things, local farmers markets, really making ourselves known within the community and showing people that not only, we have a product on the shelves, but we're also a group of people that are dedicated to giving back to our local people. Um, so yes, kind of combining those community events with the wholesale markets. And then, as we grow, I mean, there's definitely a lot more opportunity and flexibility with e-commerce and creating, kind of those direct to consumer options. So that's a big focus in 2025 of how to, again, create those systems that can allow us to share our products online where people can make an order and or receive a subscription and, receive our products monthly or on demand, as opposed to, um, having to go out and search for the products, about making those more available for the people that, hey, I've heard of your brand, but oh, you're near stores, 20 minutes from me. So that creates kind of a barrier to supporting and consuming. So making that just more and more available is a big piece for sure.
That's wow. I actually want to know. So, do you know Prime Energy Drink, or
I do know
KSI and
Prime,
Logan
yeah.
Pulse? Okay, first of all, what do you think about that drink, yeah, personally?
I think I definitely don't think it's anything special ingredients wise. I would never consume it. Um, it is I mean, as an influencer with the Pauls already having such a base, I mean, a lot of those organizations like they've done such a good job of content and entertainment, and naturally, if they launch a product, it's gonna it's gonna have awareness pretty much right off the bat. I do see that as kind of like a capital, um, more of like uh, a a mission where they could kind of expand their brand presence. I do think they could have done a much better job with finding or partnering with people that are more into that consumer health community that, if Logan Paul and Prime partnered with a co-packer or a group that was like, hey, we're gonna make a very like the best electrolyte supplement on the market and make it very, very holistic and health focused, they could have done a much better job. And it could have been something that um, had a lot more long-term traction as opposed to kind of like the short-term hype of what it is. And then, as time progresses, people are going to naturally pick apart your product and what it offers. And if it's not high class and top tier, then it's naturally just going to fall out. So
But
I
the
do
thing
feel like that was definitely
is,
a little bit of a short-term money grab.
yeah, but the thing is, I've seen like they've been expanding like crazy. Like they're in India as well. Like, okay. And look, and the thing is here is like, let's say if Prime costs about $2 or $1 in the US, it would cost twice as much in India, or probably more, especially. And people are so stupid. They will still buy it and like they will just drink it and it's like, be like, oh yeah, Prime energy drink, stay hydrated and blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, what? Why are they like so stupid? Rather, I would want, people like, I mean, Divini to come to India and then maybe, consume that. I would want that rather than like just Prime. It's just stupid because it's like typical energy drink, like, it's nothing special about it. I never tried it personally. I never want to try it as well. So, so yeah, when are you coming in India? I'm curious.
I actually so Divini's actually been in um two different countries right now. It's been in Spain and it actually has
Okay.
been in India. We sent over two cases.
It
Our
has?
design team, so the person that designed Divini was
Mhm.
a brand called Devlock. The founder of that, Mudit, goes to ASU and he built out a design agency in India. So he took home two cases to share with his team, and then we sent a case to Spain because our um, one of our guys was going over there to meet with some friends, and we were like, all right, we'll send you a case, and you can make some content in Spain. Um, so yeah, but as far as actual like product availability, um, that's where like the Paul brothers, that's why I like network and your reach is so important
Mhm.
because it's just going to give you those opportunities, and you're going to know and meet and have access to the right people that can make those kind of large impact
Mhm.
decisions and opportunities happen. Um, so, really comfortable with like having a voice and putting yourself out there and gaining that audience. Because if you want to do very big things in the world, I mean, you naturally have to be the person or organization that's very well connected to make that happen. And that's one thing the Paul brothers have such a already foundation in, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, creating those products and making that a forefront of why you're going to pursue something in the first place, I feel like it's going to be very important moving forward, and something that those are going to be the brands that stick around because as time progresses, more and more people are going to understand. And there might be I know there's an influencer in India right now called I've been following him for a while. Farm. I'd have to look up the name.
Oh, I know. The
You know
guy
who
who
I'm talking
exposes
about?
the guy who exposes all the companies and says that they should not have this and they're all,
That's
you
right.
know, okay, I know. Yeah, he went
That's exactly
to
right.
yeah,
Yeah, there's gonna be
yeah,
there's gonna be people of influence that come around, and they're gonna dissect your product. And if it's like, those are where the mass majority of the population, they look to people like that to kind
valid.
of do the diligence and research. So he could do a review on Prime and be like, "Nah, this product's ain't it," and then all of a sudden,
It's gone.
you're
It's
gonna be
gone.
dead in the market.
Yeah, he's really great. He's really great. His work is really amazing. He's inspiring. He exposes each and every brand out there, like pretty much each and every brand out there that people consume on daily. So they're gone. Most of them are already gone, to be honest, and have lost a lot
Hmm.
of money from that. But he's like the
Yeah.
worst nice nightmare for the health industry. I mean, for the people who are like building products in health, like
Oh yeah.
consuming, he's the worst nightmare. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
But like looking at your mission, looking at the way you talk, and looking at just your personality and your mission, I believe in a couple of years, Divini would grow really big, and it would be one day worldwide, and especially it will come in India and across the United States. I definitely see that, you know. I see that in your eyes. I see that in your personality and everything. And I hope it comes true soon because I would want to see that. I mean, regardless, I personally, I'm planning to come to the United States for like a trip. I mean, I've been to East Side before, but I've never been to like West Side. So definitely gonna try your drink when I come there, definitely, and tell you about it, definitely. But
We'll keep connecting you with interviewees out here in Arizona. Then you're just gonna have to make an Arizona trip.
I'll need to. I need to visit Silicon Valley anyways. And by the way, my brother is in Los Angeles in Southern California, University of Southern California,
Nice.
studying master's
Yep.
in financial engineering. So I'll visit anyways. So Scottsdale, Arizona is going to be the next stop as well. Obviously, it needs to be. It happen. It needs to happen. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, before we dive into some different questions, I just have one more question related to Divini. Since I mean you're an entrepreneur and you're running a company at such a young age, and I'm pretty sure you'd have faced some kind of problems or some issues or some challenges. What were some challenges that you might that you faced, you know, might have faced? And if you did, then how did you overcome them?
I think I mean you're always gonna face like you can only you can see a long-term vision, but to create that into a reality, you basically look at the, you know, I see like entrepreneurship as almost like a maze that looks like this,
Hmm.
and you can only look down into the next corner, right?
Yeah.
So you know, okay, I started brewing tea. Um, you know, it took for a batch of mine to start, like it took like 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
From like the first start of the fermentation to bottling. So there's 3 weeks that went by, and I did I think pretty much 8 runs before I um basically shut down and took a few months off and then found a co-packer to produce at scale to actually to match the volumes long term. So, 3 weeks would go by where, this idea would be in my mind and I'm doing this, but I'm still doing the things I would do on a daily basis, kind of in my old life, right? And so there's a big patience element with like understanding where you're trying to go, understanding that that's not going to come to fruition immediately, and having enough conviction and diligence and the work that's happening but then still doing everything that you need to do to continue learning, to continue, providing for yourself. And you do need to keep meeting people and keep bringing in cash on, your personal end to keep the vision alive. And I feel like a lot of people are torn between what they want to do and what they're currently doing, and finding like the intersection point when they can make the jump, make the leap. Um, and that could take several years to come into actionality. And that's why like you really just have to love something to where you just do it anyways, because then you're not gonna when those hurdles come, like you're just not gonna quit because you don't want to, because you would do it anyway. So it's like, what's
Hmm.
the difference? Oh, if I went all in on this, like I would try so much harder.
Hmm.
Like, no, you're either gonna try hard from the start or it's not gonna work.
All or nothing
Um,
at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just kept having fun while I was doing it. I never, I worked really hard and I knew where I wanted to go. But when I wasn't, if you're gonna, for example, in your case, like if you're gonna really dive deep and start building this like network of founders and interviewers, like you still have your whole life to live outside of this, right? And there's gonna be, you might have to get to, 10, 20, 50, 100 of these interviews, and not only all the work to just like sit here and talk to me, but on your back end of chopping up the video content and the social media and creating long form on YouTube and then growing your Twitter and like connecting all like there's so much that goes into it and understanding that, but being okay just doing the next interview, being excited about okay, who's going to be my third interview? How am I gonna and I'm excited to do the work to see the best clips from this to promote on my platforms and reach people and kind of that process. Um, and I mean, you're doing this at night, right? What time is it right now? Your time in India?
It's almost midnight.
Okay. So, I mean, you could have been like out with your friends right now at a social gathering or something, right? But it's just like, no, I just want to do this. I'm gonna do it regardless of what's
Yeah,
happening, right? And
yeah.
you're okay with that. And some people they wouldn't want to sacrifice that in the short term, but it doesn't matter for you in the short term because you're just focused on building this and doing it in repetition. So I think like the challenges aren't really challenges when you've seen that this is just what you want to do and what you see yourself doing anyway. So I think that's a big mentality shift on really just like challenges and hurdles just being a natural part of what you go through and not really seeing them as like setbacks.
Thank you so much for these words. It means a lot. I appreciate you for so much. To be honest, the reason why I'm doing this is because look, I cannot find like-minded people, a lot of them, you know. Now I want to just talk to pe great people like yourself, you know. Uh, and that's the main reason I'm doing it. I'm like always excited. I want to know more about you guys. I want to see what made you start, what was your childhood like, everything about you, and this I want to do great stuff as well. I'm energetic, optimistic, really excited about the future. Yeah, and I really I just want to be with the right people. You know, they can guide me, I can learn from them, and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m., 4 a.m., I'll just do whatever. I don't care. I just
Yeah.
need to. Yeah, I just need to. And anyways, going out with friends, this can happen anytime, you know, it's not a big thing. It's boring. I just can't even sit, to be honest. I just want to talk to people like you. I can do this all day, by the way, and not get tired and not even like sleep, not even yawn for like even 1 millisecond. So it's really amazing. But yeah. So now, okay, if you weren't doing this probiotic, you know, tea company, Divini, if you weren't running Divini, what would you be doing otherwise? Would you still be doing that job, or would have started a different entrepreneurial venture, maybe?
I think like I'm not necessarily someone that's like, oh, I hate working for someone, so I'm gonna start this and I want to be like the dictator of my own destiny. And I think like to your point, I mean, it's really about you either start something because you don't see what you know is out there to be in your current circle, so you go out and seek it, and whether that's by yourself or with a group of people or I think if I had a mentor that I really, and I did, in my banking job, like my partners at the firm, I really looked up to them and I wanted to do my best work and to advance the organization. That, it's really about just like I want to take something, I want to grow it to unprecedented limits. And that could show up in so many different facets. And if the mission's there and the people are there to you know, to put in the work, like that's what I crave. I crave being around, yeah, energetic people that want to see something turn into a reality and just spend and dedicate their time to see that through.
So let's say if someone wants to be an aspiring entrepreneur just like yourself, and they have to start from zero. They're ambitious, they want to learn, they're down to do anything, you know, put in the hours, put in the work. Firstly, how should they pick a problem that needs to be solved? And secondly, how should they approach? And especially like, you know, people who are from, you know, like from India or from different countries and just in this general, right? How should they approach? Uh, if they really want to make it big and if they really want to make an impact, I mean, what do you think they should do or how should they approach this? Because everyone wants to be an
think
entrepreneur. Yeah.
I think it starts with understanding what's currently in the world and is in circulation. And then it's seeing, I mean, the best entrepreneurs see 5 years down the road, right? On basically like they're very good at seeing what that world looks like 5 years from now. And then they see what they can do in the next year, the possibilities of what they can do by themselves, let's say, without having anyone involved. We're talking from scratch, right? So there's not really, maybe you have a network, maybe you don't, but you just don't really know. So it's like the possibilities of what can happen, visualizing that, seeing that actionalized 5 years down the road, dreaming of what you can do and what you know you're capable of doing within a year, and then knowing what you can start tomorrow. Um, because you have to dream it to do it, and then but you also have to again like all those steps and that maze you have to go through. I used to every single week I would start the week by just listing off everything that I was going to accomplish that would push me into the next week. And usually it was like 10 different things. It was, okay, I need to put some kind of website up. I need to think through, I'm working with this specific person on this branding idea. So we need to have a first rendition done by Friday. Okay, I have another home batch to do. I'm also meeting with this people because I'm curious to see what the, food market is. Not even beverage. I'm just curious to see what food is. So, okay, I'm going to set up this meeting with this local restaurateur to learn about that and maybe a couple other things, right? And so you'd have a set of like 8 tasks and you'd have to complete them by the end of the week. And then you restart again and you kind of, okay, what's this week going to look like? And then you lay down those criteria and you do them again. Next thing you know, like, a month or two goes by and you just completed like 50 tasks. And, that would have been like seemed impossible if you were to do all that stuff from the very start because like those opportunities build on each other. So maybe that guy you met with that owned a restaurant company, he's like, yo, you need to talk to this, my buddy that worked in the beverage sector. Like that actually happened. I met with this guy that started a Italian food spot around town. He built it to 10 stores. And I met with him, not even about beverages. I actually brought one of my home beverages, but I was wanting to talk to him about like running his restaurants and the food sector and how that worked. And then he tried the product. A month went by and he was like, "Hey, I tried that beverage. I actually have a friend that lives in Colorado that started a beverage company that he sold to Pepsi. You should talk with him." So then I set up that meeting, and then he ended up becoming one of my first mentors in the beverage world. And when I went out to Colorado to visit the co-packing, I met with him in person, and he talked to me about, thinking through like the logistics of packaging and your margin and what his ideal margins were. And that would have never happened if I just didn't reach out to my network of like, let me just talk to someone in the food and beverage business. So I think there's like these little micro seeds that you can plant that will just, a year down the road will just like catapult to a giant spider web. And you have to act with urgency. I think urgency on the execution's the biggest thing that's gonna differentiate anyone that tries to do anything. Um, because, it at the top of the funnel, I mean, you're gonna be the person pushing everything into existence. And if you yourself aren't the one that's the hardest worker, that's the biggest pusher of component. I mean, like from any kind of leadership components, everything trickles off of the person leading. So you better be the person that's setting up all this stuff, and then you just naturally start inviting, hey, oh, I have a friend that's interested. Like, yo, I have this thing coming up Saturday. Like, come with me. Let's go explore and see what's going on. Um, so so yeah, kind of make conceptualizing everything, seeing the long-term vision, and just doing those first steps that are immediately in front of you, that could or couldn't lead to like what that is, and that will likely change drastically, but you won't see that happen unless you just start on what you're trying to on what's in front of you and what you can do now, Um, so I think that's a very big piece about because most people don't have a network or anything when they start, right? They just start and they're just like, I don't know. It's like
Mm.
you reaching out to Will and okay, your first interview. and then we'll
Yeah.
connect you with me, and then I'm probably going to connect you with a couple other people as well, right?
Thank you.
So that's how it gets going, and you know, it might be you might visualize yourself talking to 100 people, but can't talk to 100 people if you don't talk to one person.
True.
So it's literally just starting and then being diligent and wanting it, more than anyone else wants it.
Mhm. Yeah, I wrote most of them down, but I'll write some of them down as well again and just hang it on my wall. Just like you are awesome and all that kind of stuff. But okay. Um, uh, yeah, that's a lot of things. Okay. If you had to describe Divini in, I would say, 3 words, what would they be?
I would say I would say intention. Intention's been a big part of living with intention for the longer term, but intentional. Um, I think I mean a big part of like I guess like divine, and a big part of that was like operating from your own divine space, which is like seeing how you best operate and really understanding yourself, and then what does that look like? I mean, everyone's so different, and you being in tune with yourself looks way different than anyone else in tune. So, but really understanding that from a um, from a very knowledgeable standpoint. I mean, it takes a lot of time, and that comes with like a lot of confidence in yourself. Most people aren't confident in themselves at all when they first start, because they don't really have those things that they've done to be confident in. So really like being in tune with that, trying hard things, and really understanding that you can do the things that you think you can do. So intention, divine, and I mean, I do think a big part of it is like that adventure aspect, um, to really love that, so much of what you're obtaining, like it's never going to be you being there, at the end of the journey. It really is having fun and enjoying the adventure of what those daily, days are like. And if your end goal is, hey, ultimate success in my mind might be a big family or a loving home or notoriety amongst my peers or a vast network of awesome people that were doing these crazy projects. Those can look so much different in so many ways. And you get to the end of those goals, and oftentimes, I mean, you hear so many times of, I think Phil Knight talked about this when he got to the end of his life. He was like, man, like those days when I would just have like a bunch of shoes in the back of my car and I was pulling up the track meets, like nothing was better than those days. And it's like, whoa, like you were in like the rut of it. Like the whole goal is to build Nike into a giant conglomerate and everyone knows who you are. And it's just like, no, like that was never the goal and the happiest parts. Like the happiest parts was when you didn't know what was going to happen, and that's when the excitement of the adventure is immediately present. I think that's been a big focus on like really just loving that.
Something inside me is just, I don't know, it's telling me to do great stuff again and again, especially after the stuff that you said just now. It just gave me great vibes. Thank you so much for this. So much, first of all, so much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
But okay, this might be a profound question, but what do you think the purpose of life is according to you? Like, how do you see it? Like, why do you even, start a probiotic drink company? Why not just sell for, sure, uh, you have a environment of people doing great stuff, but why not just get a job and just live normally? But why do you do this? Like, why? Why even be an entrepreneur? Why even solve a problem? Why do you feel that you're responsible? Why do you feel this is your duty to do it? Why not just, is it that some force inside you is telling you to just do this, or like why? You know?
I think the I've really latched onto servitude as a word. Um, all the greatest people in the world that have made contributions are oftentimes live the largest lives of strife and of conflict and of difficulty. And if you're comfortable with living in difficulty, that's a gift. And and I think viewing yourself as a vessel for change, whereas like everyone's searching for comfort and stability. And I think if you're blessed enough to feel that innately, no matter where you are, um, your goals in life change from, hey, I'm not going to be comfort until I have $1 million house and a sports car and all the stuff, right? No, like I'm very comfortable right now. We moved into this house. We basically made like a founder's house in Scottsdale. Um, we purchased we rented the property, great rate, found a super unique property in Scottsdale, and we're building basically a founder's house. So we have this kid Brock moving in Sunday, who started a cold plunge and sauna business. He builds them himself, and he's working on enterprise contracts. We have an electric engineer living at the house right now that's working on a protein shake concept. We have an artist at the
Amazing.
house who draws murals and it's like Beethoven on the keyboard and works in kind of the film and marketing sector. He works on set. Jordan Peterson's one of their biggest clients. So he's met
Damn.
Peterson many times. Peterson's actually very active in Scottsdale. He's actually working on set today with Jordan.
So
Um,
amazing.
and we built out the house right now where like I had a room taken over that I'm in right now, and we basically turned it into like Cam works right there at the office. And this was the master bedroom, so I actually have my bed set up in the closet right now, of the bedroom. So I have a Japanese futon on a tatami mat, and I'm sleeping in the closet. And and it's like I'm not ashamed or I feel like I'm able to walk out and step into this, just like work center. And that's like ultimate comfort for me right now. It's not having like a nice house with a nice bed and all this stuff. So it's like, what's your level of comfort and where you feel happy? And the lower you can feel where it's like, yeah, I can sleep in, the dumps, but if I'm able to work on amazing things that bring me happiness, then your mentality changes from like seeking comfort in things to then how can I, use myself as a vessel of service for the world, and that's been a big mentality shift on being okay with nothing and wanting to give everything.
Love that. Uh, okay. Do you have a warehouse in like where you produce your drinks in Scottsdale?
So our partner is up in Cottonwood, Arizona. It's about 2 hours north of where I currently am.
Okay.
They have about a 20,000 square foot brewing facility specifically made for brewing this and fermenting honey, the green tea
Hmm.
and honey. Um, and then they have another 20,000 square foot warehouse for like storing raw materials, for storing cold products. And
Hmm.
then we have a warehouse partner that has storage space in Phoenix. So I'll ship essentially everything from the brewery down to Phoenix. So that way it's close so I can go pick inventory whenever. And then and we have kind of the studio house in Scottsdale where we just kind of work out of, create content out of, host people around the area, meet people at the house. Um, so there's kind of this like three little compartment feeder, which we're utilizing for commerce right now.
That's amazing. Um, yeah. So, well, you okay? A real quick rapid question, a rapid fire question. If you could have a tea with any historical figure, Who would that be?
Um, I was actually asked a similar question. I think I went to a I've been like exploring different religions for the past year. So I went to to study like Muslim at a temple that's here in town. I've gone to the synagogue, Catholic churches, a ton of different places. So my buddy, actually, Will took me to Shabbat on Friday nights at a
Sh
house. And
so
Shabbat's
Shabbat,
basically like it's like
so,
it's almost like a dinner that's held at the rabbi's house where they bring
okay.
in just people from the community and they'll just like serve dinner, talk about life, and do their prayers. And so it's been cool to just like explore so many different facets of like community with in religion. And and I was asked the question of like a historical figure that you'd want to have with, and I think uh if I could go back to like Egyptian days and I could have like tea with like a pharaoh, I think that would be super. That would be like yeah, like dream tea experience. Because then you could like
Wow.
see and talk about Egypt. I think the facet of like how Egypt was and what they built with like their workforce and obviously there's a lot of conspiracies of like, oh, was it people or was there some, divine intervention with how the pyramids were created or whatnot? And also like how they ritualize death and their ceremonies. I think it's just so interesting. So yeah, I'd have tea with an Egyptian pharaoh.
Okay, fair, fair. And what's your guilty snack or pleasure snack drink that you have, you know,
I'll definitely I'm a big fan of dark chocolate cacao. I think
dark chocolate?
that's the ultimate snack. And
Oh,
and cacao in its pure state is actually really good for your body and it tastes incredible. And and I think like palates are so interesting because you can be on like a sugar craze,
uh-huh.
with different whereas like someone have dark chocolate and be like, oh, that's so bitter. But if you never really have like super high refined sugars, then cacao or like even like a banana or something like that could be like, oh wow, this is like it's sweet, it's delicious, and it's very yeah, from nature, from the earth. So I'll definitely enjoy some
Oh,
cacao.
okay. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you one question. How many people are working under you? Like, do you have a team? How many members do you have under your wing?
So we have Mudit and Devlock from the design agency. We
Hmm.
have Anshul with Winning Business Solutions that's handling our Shopify website build out. He's in India as well.
He's
And
working
then
from India,
yep.
or okay, okay.
So half of our teams in India right now on the creative and development side. And then we have our co-packing partner in Cottonwood with Wild Tonic, Good Bottle Omen or Good Omen Bottling as our co-packing partner. And then we have Cameron McGee, who's our kind of full-time videographer, social media, creative arm. And we have Cole Daggard, who is within the event space. He's very plugged into the music scene, so he's helping us build out our content on the music side, running events, showing up to events. And then we have a lot of friends that will go out to an event and we're, able to bring 5 people. So kind of our fellow friends that are also building different companies. Um, like we'll go do an event and I'll bring Will out and Will's just he's in AI, but he'll show up and just like talk to people and give out tea and just like hang out. So we have like a lot of just part-time friends that just love tapping into community side and we're kind of um forefronting that. So yeah, I'd say about 4 to 5 um full-time or contract and then about 5 to 10 people that we'll just pull up to events and kind of or our hangout friend group.
Okay, I'm also curious. What does your day in the life of Mason look like? When do you wake up? When do you sleep? What do you do in the morning, in the evening?
I usually like the ideal morning is I like to get up and be active to kind of I think if you're I usually fast in the mornings as well. So I'll usually like I'd love to work out on an empty stomach, down some water immediately. So I'll go work out. We kind of in our studio. We have like a rooftop, so we actually built like a pull-up bar and a punching bag and a ton of stuff. So when the weather's good, I'll do that. Or
You drink coffee in the morning or not? Are you like a coffee drinker?
we do have we just got an espresso machine. So
Uh-huh.
we got some good coffee ground suppliers out here in Arizona. So yeah, I'll maybe have like an espresso in the morning, usually water or herbal tea will
Okay.
be kind of like from morning till noon. And then I'll usually break my fast with fruit or yeah, usually fruit, like something easy to digest. And then from there, very like whole foods based, like I'll make like a stew or a good hearty
Mm.
soup or um, beans, rice, good meats, a lot of fermented goods, like different milks or cheeses or kefir, a lot of tea, a lot of fermented tea. Um, and yeah, so just a very like functional diet,
You're
active
really
component.
conscious. You're really conscious about your diet. I see. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be off brand for me not to.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Um and yeah, I mean usually it's in the mornings like making sure that you're controlling everything that you can control. A lot of things are external factors, but there is a lot of things that you can control to kind of make your own destiny. So always making sure to if you get emails from the night, like first thing in the morning, like reply back to people. Don't leave people hanging. Someone emails you or texts you, like I usually respond instantly um, to build that trust factor and make people understand that again, it's all about being very intentional and very deliberate and having that urgency factor. So if someone reaches out to you, like you need to respond back immediately. Or if you get off a meeting and you say, you tell someone that, hey, I'm going to have that. Hey, I'll send you over our sales sheets and, we're here to service you. Like you better stand by your word on that. And, you're going to get that to them that day.
Walk the walk,
Um,
walk the talk. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. So it'll look a lot of difference whether we have an event in the morning or whether we're doing a sampling or a community event. But usually I'll hop on the computer pretty much all morning, reach out to people. And then afternoons it'll be running product around town or going to meet different partners around town, um, selling products. I've taken, oftentimes I'll take like a couple six packs and a cooler and just drive around town and walk into businesses and say, hey, here's what we're building around town. We're a local company and we'd love to, showcase and have our beverages be a part of your organization. Um, so a lot of that. Um, and yeah, just making your presence known around town. And, so much of a company is not just the product or the service, but also you and your team. And you really gotta to have impact, you gotta show face and um, make yourself known.
Love that. How many hours do you work every day? Uh, Approximately in 24 hours.
Um, I mean, I'm usually sleeping anywhere from like 7 to 8 hours. I do emphasize sleep, to be able to do, I'm not like one of those guys that like, oh, I sleep 3 hours a day and work all the time. Like, I definitely preface sleep, just because, you're able to be in such a clear state of mind if you're well rested. And that wellness component is a big part about putting your best foot forward every day. I'm very big on productive work as opposed to just to work. Um, so, kind of that wellness routine is huge. You know, oftentimes like we'll have events all weekend, so maybe you won't get a ton of sleep, but then you'll just end up crashing and you won't be able to, kind of put your best foot forward. And then pretty much outside of that, um, I mean, there's always something to do. Like tomorrow, for instance, we have a concert with one of our musicians that's did a tea room, has been helping us with content, has been a part of our brand. So he's doing a show from 7 to 9, and then they're doing an after party with a bunch of musicians and people around town. So that'll be a late night. So that could be, 5 hours of like meeting people and networking, and which is work for the brands and again making yourself known. So work is could be shown in so many different facets. So pretty much right when I wake up, around, let's say on most days, like if I work out, it'll be 6. If I have something to attend to, so pretty much 6 to 7, and pretty much from that moment until the end of the day around 9, 10, 11 o'clock. It's pretty much whatever you can do to meet people, to promote, to contact people. All day you're kind of fixated on pushing that vision forward.
That's great. That's amazing. So I mean, besides, I mean, you used to play golf, but now you don't play as much golf as you do. But do you have any other hobbies besides just work or just, attending events and working on your company? Any other hobbies like you like, I don't know, going on a hike or hanging out with a lot of friends or maybe go to parties or something like that. I don't know. Just any. Do you also do those kind of activities or you just primarily do what you're doing? Like,
Yeah, it's awesome because I've almost created an ecosystem where a lot of my fun comes from work, which is why I think I'm able to um, just work all day and still like get that serotonin release of, I don't really have to like escape to
oh,
feel like I'm not getting that satisfaction. And a lot of that is being active either outside or getting your body right through physical activity, stimulating yourself through music. I do play the guitar, and learning
who's your
piano
favorite
right
musician?
now.
Who's your favorite musician or this songwriter or
I've always loved John Mayer. He's one of my favorite musicians ever. I feel like he has a song for every stage of life, and his music's very complex. And if anyone's
yeah.
ever tried to play one of his songs, it's like one of the craziest things. Because to be able to do what you do on guitar and then to have your vocals be completely separated and still like play efficiently, um, it's very incredible. So that's always been my favorite musician probably that I've
What do you
listened
think
to.
about Bob Dylan, George Harrison, and John Lennon? Yeah, those are like my top three.
There you go. The classic. Absolute classic.
I
That's
can
some of the
relate
most
to them. Yeah.
simple, like just soul speaking music that you could possibly listen to. Absolutely. Yeah, anything that, I mean, calmness is a very, you're doing so much throughout the day. So, and again, consumption is everything. So always listening to music that is both soothing, uplifting, and gets you in a state of control within yourself, and feeling comfortable